It's not a secret that I don't particularly like the talking point of children know about themselves so much that they are able to start the process of transitioning because I don't care how any of you feel about your offspring. They, at their developing ages, are slow, they're making various amounts of mistakes, and they will not be able to understand the world in any full capacity. Your child right now is potentially going through their first few days of school, struggling to figure out algebra, struggling to figure out calculus, and struggling with the realization that Santa Claus is not real. No one is able to convince me that a child has the ability to understand they are the opposite sex and they belong in a different gender. It is impossible. But as of these past few years, the conversation has been about parents and their right to know what's going on with their child and how there are certain institutions, schools, that are doing things to help circumvent the potential conversation between a child and a parent in regards to pronouns, gender, and how they feel deep inside. And in certain states like Florida, while people will sit there and lie to you and say that the bill is somehow discriminatory against gay people with the catchphrase "don't say gay," what it actually is informing parents about what needs to be known in regards to their child and what's going on in school. And if you look me in the eyes and say that's a problem, you are clearly not giving me an alternative that is better other than taking the child away from the parents and putting them potentially in foster care because you somehow think that's better for them in some areas. But the reason this subject is being brought up again is because a school district in California has approved a law that could go into place where children and teachers and maybe guidance counselors don't need to disclose information, barring a few exceptions, to parents as it relates to all of these topics about transitioning and maybe other policies along with that. And of course, parents heard that and got concerned. And then of course, people on social media saw parents' concern and their response is, hey, if your child is reaching out to other people about issues regarding them, that says a lot about you as a parent, because if your child can't confide in you, then that's a bad look on you.
For those that haven't heard, California becomes the first state to ban schools from telling parents about kids' gender identity. This is a first in the nation, and it essentially bans districts from requiring school staff to disclose a student's gender identity or sexual orientation, including their pronouns, to other people without the child's permission. With some exceptions, of course. The law doesn't protect young people from changing their name or their gender. As I'm sure y'all can tell, this caused a lot of controversy with some people. A school district in Southern California even suing the state. But before I talk about my thoughts, I would like to know, what do you all think about this? Leave a comment. And if you agree or disagree with this law, I would love to hear why. From what I've read, people are nervous that it's gonna hurt the family unit because young people won't have transparency with their parents. Other people are wondering that if your kid is not gonna come up to you and share an important detail in their life, that's more of a problem with you than with the school or the school district. From my perspective, I think this is a good step. I've worked in education for the last 10 years, and every single year I've had students that have trouble coming out to their parents because their parents won't support them or because they're not ready yet, and school becomes their safe space, the space where they can be who they want to be. And if it's not hurting anybody, I don't see what the problem is. If you're a parent worried that your student's not gonna come tell you about something that's important to them, then I think that means that you have work to do. Those are my thoughts, La Familia. This is a conversation. What do you all think?
I might have the most controversial take in regards to this subject, but I think the easier way to handle this is maybe to recognize that this conversation needs to be had with everyone in the room, not just certain individuals, so that you could keep people out of issues regarding, I don't know, their child. So how about everybody join in one room and start having these conversations? It may be uncomfortable to have, especially as it's regarding your child, but I would rather have the conversations and go through ways to navigate it instead of having some weird dynamic with my offspring and any other family members because things are going on that I don't know about and I feel excluded from the conversation. It benefits all parties. It allows people to understand things, especially going on with their child. And more importantly, it starts to create that conversation of, is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea? Is your child actually smart enough to know what's going on with their body? Or are they just going through a phase where they're depressed and they think that this is the only way that they can make themselves feel better? Because one thing that has irked me still to this day is that the people who will sit there and look at you in the face and say that they know everything about minority groups choose to ignore the minority group of transitioners that detransition. And yes, statistically, it is low. However, those stories of being in a state of wanting to transitioning, and then detransitioning are just as valid as the stories about people who are happy that they transition. Because as much as you want to pretend like everything that happens in one person's life is a valid thing that just creates sunshine and rainbows, in reality, there could be some negative effects. And I would think if you're having these conversations, whether you're in the beginning stages or you're about to start the process, you should know about the good and the bad, especially if it pertains to a child.
Honestly, what helped me realize, I'm not promoting this at all in any type of way, but you asked me what helped me realize. On my 25th birthday, I took magic, and I had an out-of-body experience. And when I slammed back into my body, the first thing that came out of my mouth was, so my body is a temple. So basically, I realized that my body is a temple, meaning that I'm inside my body. My body isn't a representation of me. I just am inside of it. So with that realization, I was just like, I should probably take care of my body better. And taking hormones doesn't make any sense. Like, if I have a purpose on this earth and it is within this temple I was placed in, why do I keep trying to make alterations to this temple? Like, let me just live it out naturally how I'm supposed to live it out. Let me just get on the storyline I was placed in and live this thing out. Because if I'm a spirit, I'm gonna leave this body at some point. Like, it's really not that big of a deal for me to, like, make sure everybody knows that this body isn't a representation of me. Like, no, like, it's not about me at all. Like, coming to God, figuring out, like, this is a representation of him, not me. So less of me, more of him type thing. Like, yeah, so that's what helped me realize, was realizing that I am not a body, that this is just flesh that I'm inside of. But I was placed inside of it for a purpose and a reason. And so instead of fighting that, just kind of submitting to it. So yeah. This is my testimony, and to me it's crazy, but God wants to use it, so amen.
By putting that in front of your face, I'm not sitting here trying to spew a bunch of rhetoric that is deemed transphobic by a bunch of people who don't know how to go outside and understand that everyone else's experience is not the same as theirs. I'm showing you that there are people who will exist, and whatever reasons they want to go through in terms of detransitioning or fixing their life so that they could have a healthier body, or their body being a temple, or them coming to a realization, it's all valid and should be discussed in the conversations, especially if you're going to have these conversations around and for children. What you shouldn't do is this.
Now, I was talking to a detransitioner on this app, and after watching her video, I literally commented and just said, it seems like you couldn't handle being a trans man because of the new insecurities that it brought on for you. And I said, but that's okay. But after I said that, she starts going in on me saying, handle what? You're never going to really be a man. You're never going to be a man. And those surgeries don't help. They're not worth it. And you need to be happy in the body that you were born in and all this other stuff. She talking about you're just going to look like a man. That's it. But you're not going to be a man. But the thing is, we live in a society where you look the part. And especially if you identify as the part, you are the part. Let's be fucking for real. You're not going to tell me I'm not going to be a man just because it wasn't worth it for you. Don't go spewing your transphobic rhetoric just because you detransition. You're not trans. So, of course, the surgeries and being on T isn't worth it for you. You're talking about it's not healthy in the long run. Baby, I looked it up, and it's nothing that I ain't heard before. I'm going to be all right. This is how I want to live this is what I want. You want to live your life like that, that's fine. But don't go spewing that transphobic rhetoric and try to tear me down. You're doing too much.
I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. I don't understand the detransitioning thing. I don't know what it is. Educate me if you would like to, but I don't get it. I just don't. Like, I fucking don't. And I personally feel like detransitioning is low-key. Like, that is exactly why I be on that. Hey, bro, if you finna go transition, G, Start off socially transition. Maybe that'll work for you first. You never fucking know. Then, if you would like to, hit up them damn pity pills. Amen. Then do, if you want to go extra, bitch, hit up the surgery rags. Eat it up. Eat it up, whatever you fucking need to do. But personally, I don't understand the detransitioning shit. Like, I personally feel like I feel bad for them. I do, because a lot of them have done shit to their bodies that they can no longer change, right? That they can no longer go back from. You can go back from pills. You can't go back from fucking surgeries, though. You know what I mean? Like, half these detransitioners done already had all these fucking surgeries, bitch. You can't go back at all. And I'm like, it just has me mind boggled. Like, I don't know. I don't get it. I just don't get it. If y'all can educate a bitch, help me out, because I don't know.
Now, we've been primarily talking about California and their school district, but to soften the blow about how people aren't on board with this, you have parents in Colorado suing a school because one of the counselors was having their child, a girl, go into meetings without the parents' knowledge with a therapist who was talking to them about taking testosterone and having mastectomies because it was a girl who felt like they were a boy. And I don't know about you, but if I were a parent and I'm finding out about this information late and no one's bringing me into the conversation, yes, I would be concerned and pissed off that other grown adults are having conversations about things that have to do with medical with my child, and I am nowhere in the fucking room. The tasty nugget, at least to me, was this part. They wanted their daughter to explore the root of her distress through therapy rather than viewing transitioning as a panacea that would solve all her problems. By March of 2024, AD, the girl in question, started to regret her transition and started living as a girl again. She now believes that her prior identification as a boy was a subconscious attempt to mask her other mental health struggles. Still, the parents worry that her LGBTQ plus classmates won't accept her as a girl again and may pressure her to change sex again because, let's be honest, peer pressure in high school and middle school is something none of us really know how to figure out, and we were all the victims of that to some capacity. I'm not a parent, and I've told you numerous times I like my semen where I could see it, but I think it may be difficult for parents to hold conversations with their children, especially pertaining to sensitive subjects as they're growing up, because things are developing in their bodies, they're growing, hair showing up in places that they couldn't imagine, like their elbows, and it's difficult for these parents who grew up in a certain time to start having conversations with their children who are growing up in a completely different set of circumstances. Things around this world are changing at a rapid pace, and it could be difficult for a lot of people who lived back in the day to understand anything that's happening now, and they might be a little bit abrasive to it. They might be a little bit of defensive towards any of this, and that's perfectly fine. My controversial hot take pertaining to talking to your children is letting them know that this world is big and there are a lot of people in it with different backgrounds, different experiences, and different ideologies. I don't think a child should be consuming every random thing that they hear as 100% law. I do think they should be able to understand, talk, and experience these things without fully dipping their entire body into the pool, but just seeing things and trying to understand different people. That doesn't mean you have to completely adopt what it is they believe in. It just lets you know, hey, while you live on this earth, other people live on this earth too. And I feel like I said it at the beginning, I'll say it again. No matter what, you can't convince me that a child has the ability to understand that they are a girl or a boy in the opposite type of body. That's an impossible thing to get a lot of people to understand. And of course, people are going to be defensive of it if it pertains to their children. Is it a scenario where every time somebody shows up to the doctor, they say, I'm a girl and a boy, and they just cut something off or attach it? No. Has it happened? Yes. It creates a lot of conversations that need to be expanded upon, because if you don't, you run into a lot of family dynamic issues. You can say that, oh, doing this secretly is better for the child. But what happens when the parents find out and it's a little bit too late? You got situations like this where they're suing. You got people who are going to be violent. You got people who are going to be drastically upset because something's happening to their offspring that no one informed them about. And yes, that is a fucking problem that I would argue is a lot worse than your father or your mother not being cool with gay people. Dramatically, there is a difference there. I'd argue as a grown adult, you can do whatever you want. But when you're child going into teenager, you should probably be learning about these things from more credible people other than individuals on TikTok who want to specialize in DIY hormones. Because let's be honest, nobody wants to have their paws on anything made that involves medicine or anything medical that has do-it-yourself attached to it. That's a problem a lot of people don't want to admit also. And to wrap this up, I'll just say, once again, the easiest way to help this out is everybody have conversation. Talk about the good and talk about the bad. And if you're not willing to do that, or if you're one of these dumb fucks who is pro LGBTQ to the point where you look stupid saying there's no negative effects at all, you're openly lying. And I wish you specifically would shut the fuck up and open your ears, much like you want everybody to listen to you, because there are more stories out there for you to consume. And if you are somebody who is eagerly convinced that a child is able to think about things in a certain manner to where they can begin the process of transitioning, it would behoove you to at least allow the negative aspects of the conversation to be talked about also. Because if not, you're unsafe and I don't want you around children. But let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Subscribe to the channel. I will see you all in the next one. It's time to go see where my semen's at.